Can everybody hear me? Great. Peace be upon you. Let's start with some meditation. Let's come into the body. Coming into the body as the guest comes into the temple. Again, being aware of what awareness does to the body. We may have gone our whole day so far without even noticing the body. And when we bring loving attention to the body, we immediately become one with it again. Feel the beauty of the connection with the earth. Feel the grandeur of sitting with your spine straight. Feel that this very posture is prayer. Then start to feel the movement of the breath. The body is completely still otherwise. And again, feel the magic of what happens when we bring awareness to a part of our life, this time the breath. Suddenly we feel it again. And as we move with the rhythm of the breath, just allow this to be the only thing that matters in your life just now. Feeling the breath. Allow it to be your anchor. To break the compelling force and habit to think about the future, which you know doesn't exist, and to think about the past, which you know doesn't exist. To speculate, conceptualize, and think, which you know doesn't help, but compels us again and again. So we listen to the advice of the holy beings who say, just be with the breath. Don't fight the thoughts, and don't give them any attention. Just be with the breath. But that's not a meaningless, boring suggestion. The breath is utterly beautiful. Each in-breath is the vitality of life entering into you. And each out-breath is a deep relaxation into existence. A miniature cycle of life and death. Have the intuitive confidence to know that what we're seeking is beyond thinking about it. It's being as things are. No future, no past, and no analysis of the present moment. You just are. And the breath is just breathing. Slowly, slowly, let go of your attention on the breath. and just rest in the knowledge that you are. The being without any content, without any stories, without any analysis. You simply know that you are. As you tune into it, or as you let go of the thinking mind, it becomes clearer and clearer that this is ordinary consciousness, that this is the space that's always here. From when you were a child, a teenager, until your last breath, this space is always as it is. It's subjectivity without a subject. That sense of it always being here as it is, we call fresh, ever fresh, unstained by any thought or action you've ever performed. Any analysis of it is simply another concept or thought. That simply passes through it, and you may never even remember that thought again, whilst the being is always here. Cold passes through it. Heat passes through it. It's never, ever affected by these things. Like the sky. No matter how many clouds or storms happen, the sky is just as it is, as it always has been. A pure sense of knowing, but without any person there to know it, to claim it. You cannot measure it. It means it's neither small nor large. It's neither over here or over there. These are categories of the mind. It just is. Always knowing, formless. Presence without a person, without a story. This presence again becomes aware of the breathing. Becomes aware of the body and the contact with the earth. This presence is aware of the room aware of thoughts. And we keep this presence as we listen to the Dharma. So we'll probably go into the guidelines on how to keep bodhicitta. We'll again talk about bodhicitta. This time from Kabir. O sadhu, the simple union is the best. Since the day when I met my Lord, there has been no end to the sport of our love. I shut not my eyes, I close not my ears. I do not mortify my body. I see with eyes open and smile, and behold his beauty everywhere. I utter his name, and whatever I see, it reminds me of him. Whatever I do, it becomes his worship. The rising and setting are one to me. All contradictions are solved. Wherever I go, I move round him. All I achieve is his service. When I lie down, I lie prostrate at his feet. He is the only adorable one to me. I have none other. My tongue has left off impure words. It sings his glory day and night. Whether I rise or sit down, I can never forget him, for the rhythm of his music beats in my ears. Kabir says, my heart is frenzied, and I disclose in my soul what is hidden. I am immersed in that one great bliss, which transcends all pleasure and pain. So this is bodhicitta. We've resolved the problem of our own suffering. It's like the personal self. And we've realized the ultimate self, that there's only one reality. So we call it cosmic consciousness, the sense that everything's made up of the same stuff. And that stuff is divine, loving, intelligent, wise. But it's beyond our ken. So this is what it says in the Book of the Books. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. I think we've talked before about Khadir, this incomprehensible level of reality that goes beyond the personal self and the personal self's reactions to events. And so you can never know the will of God with the mind. So it's like, of course, what we just read out from the book of the books is just poetry. When the messenger was asked, what is your God? Then he gave, it's pure Dzogchen. So God is one. There's nothing you can take outside of God. You can't take anything out of existence. It's all God. It's all one. Whatever you worship, it's God. There's nothing else other than God. So God is absolute. God is one. God is absolute. So God's not relative. But in the oneness, that's part of God, which is all things. So the relative is included in the absolute, and both are together, so it's beyond comprehension. And God is beyond karma. He neither begets nor is begotten. So God is one, God is absolute, God is outside of karma. And God is not like unto anything else. So God can't be conceived. So whenever anyone ever thinks of God, it's not God. This is according to the Holy Prophet. So you can see there's not many of his followers who get that. Relatively. He's got a lot of followers, over 1 billion. I'd put it into the thousands at the most amount of people who understand that. Whenever you mention anything about God, you understand that it's not him. It's just some help to try and comprehend our human concepts, to get to a space within inside ourselves where we can start to feel God. So that passage from the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Kul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad, wa lam yakulahu kufuwan ahad, Allahu akbar. It's pure Dzogchen. Like condensed. Whatever Dzogchen text will pick up, it'll be that. Everything is one, it's absolute, it contains the relative, it's beyond karma, and it's beyond conception. So this is when it starts to get interesting. So whatever you think about God, it's not him. Then the Holy Prophet says, he who knows himself knows his Lord. So the indication is that you are one, you are the absolute, you are beyond karma, and you cannot be conceived. The main thing is you can't know yourself as a thing. You're beyond conception. If you could conceive of yourself as a thing, then how would you know the Lord? when the Lord is beyond conception. So we're this is like the human being in Buddhism. The human being is considered the only vehicle that can awaken. So it's superior to the God realm, the angelic realm. And in the Sufi world, in Islam, then the human being is like the ultimate expression of God. Like it mirrors the relative and the absolute in the same way that God does. And the angelic realm doesn't know compassion the way that the human can, and the angels can only obey. It's like Satan can only disobey, isn't it? Satan's an interesting angel, isn't he? He disobeys. We have the option to obey or disobey. But we know that Lucifer disobeyed because he loved God so much that he refused to worship the creation over the Creator. So that's the indication then being that if you obsess on awareness, you miss God's path. And this is the Bodhisattva. You see, to be in the world but not of it. This is the path of Jesus. They're always bringing balance back from the materialist, delusional ego and the obsessors over the absolute who deny this world. The ascetics. What we call Satan. So I think most people call Satan people who are living out in the world and running around. But if you understand what Satan is someone who will not bow down to creation, to Adam, because he loves God so much and sees that the creation is pathetic, it's a bit low. Why would I bow down to that flawed creature when I love you so much, you're divine and perfect? And then it gets cast out for that. So that, for God, is the greatest sin. It's the denial of his creation. So one of the hardest things, especially when you get on the path, like you start to think one is special because one's becoming spiritual. It's a natural kind of sense. One, because you're starting to recognize your own, how special you are. How special it is to live, to be, to exist, the glory of life. But with that comes the shadow side. Like, if we haven't worked on the self-importance, and again, we go straight to God, straight to awareness, then the shadow of the self-importance kind of kicks in. And again, like deep in the energy system, deep in the habitual patterns, is I'm the center of the universe. So that speciality becomes like holier than thou. I become holier than thou. I'm spiritual. Yeah, I can see the ways of the ego and see they're lesser. And it's like I figured it out. And then lots of theories on non-duality and all the rest of it. And just like lots of philosophizing, and you get your own YouTube channel and followers and talk about how special the awareness is and the divine, and it's just all around that sense of the me in this space. That's like the shadow side. It's, again, there's always like the mystics always come. People like Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha. I mean, like Buddha, I mean, they really didn't like you've got the Brahmin culture, and they're all special. It's like a culture of we're special, and you people lower, like in the system. And you're untouchable, that's how special we are. It's a great analogy of the mind, like an outer expression of the mind. Of what it does, that hierarchical expression comes when you think that you're in God. And God's a special like thing you own. And then Buddha just annihilated them. And then, as soon as he was gone, as soon as they could, the Brahmins kicked the Buddhist culture out of the country. Just like, well, all the mystics don't have any of it. You're not special. And Jesus is the most hardcore. No one follows it, what Jesus did. I've never come across it. Never. I have never come across a priest, a minister, I mean, I'm not saying I've met that many, who washes the feet of the congregation and takes the lowest position. Never. It's a hierarchical movement of I'm going to be special. And I'm going to be in my concept of God and the specialness of me in it. And as I raise into that sense of God, I will condescend down to help others from my special space. I'm separate, I'm in God, I'm in a special place. This place is all garbage, and I will help it. The whole Bodhisattva path, the whole journey that we're making, it's very difficult. That sense of, if you don't train, that sense of you're absolutely special, you are God's child, you are, say, the glory of life, the glory of existence, the glory of being, the glory of love. And understanding you're one amongst 9 billion humans who are the same as that. You're absolutely nothing, and you're complete glory. The union of that. And one of the best ways to maintain that union is to help other people, is to be with other people, to be with other people, to recognize the divinity everywhere. In the prostitutes. I'm just gonna get a jumper, but excuse me, a little bit Scottish summertime. Jumpers, heating. Just How many of you look down on prostitutes, porn stars? Think they're a bit less? Yeah, a bit less. A bit less than Ronaldo. A bit less than an actor who whore themselves out by kissing other women, but get away with it because they pretend they've been someone else. Look down on homeless people. Bit dirty. Don't want to talk to them. Wouldn't want them in your house, right? No? You got it? You realise they're all God? One love? One being? Yeah. Nor is it you just ignore them so you can go off and meditate to be in a special space. What is it? Not so easy, is it? It's easy to talk about it. It's nice when things are comfortable. You read some books, you got a nice space, rest with yourself. Oh yeah, no. Yeah, I know awareness. If you know awareness, then you understand that being on the streets, you. I'll give them a couple of minutes. That's what a Bodhisattva does, right? You can feel good about yourself that you engage in a Bodhisattva action. So there's helpful ways to make sure we don't slip into that kind of egocentric Satan. Awareness is all that matters, and anything else is like a degradation that you do not want to engage with. You don't want to worship God's creation. Thank you very much. Let me reside in the glorious formless space. So this is the training. But this is the bodhicitta, I'm saying, this incredible mind in which we recognize all of this is divine. We don't pick and choose. And again, a beautiful way to help us understand it is through the Sufis, the holy prophet. And, I think he said, well, what's your highest name? And it's like Abdul, servant. It's the same thing. You just your opinions don't matter. Your opinions about God and blah, 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 that's just your ego chatting to itself. It's serving. What's the divine will? Well, it's in the Quran. It's like, that's religion. I don't want to touch that. It's like, fine, don't. But if you're wondering what it is, how you want to behave, what it is, how to let go of your own opinions and into the will of God, it's like there's messengers who've come down, who are connected, and they tell us. Now, you just be careful, don't discount the word of God and the messengers of God, these exemplary examples of how to be with it and show it, because you get a few clever bourgeois Westerners who can shuffle concepts around very well. Self-empowerment, no, you don't need religion, you just take this bit here and you just... Some of them you wouldn't trust your kids with them. It's like a couple of people, a couple of like mystics, people are like worship. I wouldn't trust my kids with them. Yeah. People generally who don't like other people and they don't like existence and then tell you they're divine. Well, it's up to you. Isn't it? People who won't listen to what the messengers say about, well, no, you just do what you like. It's like, cool. What you mean is you can't, when your ego's challenged, you don't like it. And you want to do what the ego wants to do. But there's a deep sense of relief when you surrender. That's the thing. That's surrendering. It's just like, let's say, like Guru Yoga is like falling off a log. Faith is just, it's quite difficult if you don't trust, right? You'll be, let's say, like clinging to the side. But if you trust, it's the easiest thing in the world. You just fall backwards. But it can be scary. It's like, well, what if I don't get all the things that I want by following the ways of the Holy Prophet or Jesus? What if I don't get all the, what if I don't get to shag lots of women? What if I don't get lots of money? What if I don't da-da-da-da? And all the people that don't do that and just rest in awareness, think they just do whatever they like. These are things you have to figure out yourself. So the Bodhisattva path requires surrender. It's essentially surrendering your ideas. Yeah. I mean, can you really trust your own ideas? Really? It's not like discounting your like everyday reality and figuring things out, but your ideas about why the universe is here, what life is, what God is. You don't even know who your mum is. You don't even know who you are. It's like, how long have you been trying to figure out who you are? You don't know, right? But you know what? You know better than. It just gets silly, doesn't it? So this sense of surrender, like the poem that we read out, Kabir, then it's like, then life becomes beautiful. What's it like when we surrender? And it's like this trust develops. Trust and faith that there's a intelligent force and a deep, loving, compassionate force in the universe. That there's laws to life. This is when the stubborn mind, the stubborn one, doesn't like that. Its idea of freedom is I can do what I like. That's our concept of freedom, isn't it? I can do what I like. And it's like, you can. And that's why you suffer. Yep. There is a law of gravity. And if you want to, you can jump off a cliff. What's the result going to be? Suffering. But if you follow the law of gravity and use wisdom, and you don't jump off a cliff, even though you want to, it's like, I'd like to, but I'm going to follow the law. You don't suffer, right? Apart from the stubbornness, willfulness of still, I want to do what I want. I want to be able to fly. Well, you can't. So you either follow the law and be happy, or you follow your own ego and what it likes and suffer. That's generally our life. And God gives us that freedom. And in that suffering, we come back to God, which is following the laws of life that has been created. I mean, there's laws within laws within laws. Everything has a law. Everything has an intelligent design to it. It's as you look into life, this is what's advised in the Book of Love by the Holy Prophet. You come to faith through investigation, through knowledge, through looking, through wisdom, through investigation. By looking at the creation, you will understand the Creator, and your faith and trust will come. And by making mistakes, you'll come round to the law and the perfection of the law. And if you just become in harmony with the law, you'll be at one with God. And that you want to surrender what your idea of the free will is, you surrender it. And that's what love is, when you surrender to the other, isn't it? You're not in a relationship and you just demand what you want all the time. How's that? How's that? It's like you want your way and you want the other person to acquiesce to your way because your choice of movies is better, right? You listen to my music. It's like, oh, do I have to listen to your music? Can't both surrender though, right? That's when you conceptualize it. And if you have like two twos together, 2 times 2 equals madness. Oh, I'm not going to decide the baby's name. I'm not going to decide. You decide. I want you. You decide. No, you decide. You decide. And it's like, I'm going to make a decision. Oh, I'm selfish. I made a decision. But that doesn't work, does it? That's not a bodhisattva. Then you end up with what, like the church is, just a conceptualized view of what it means to surrender. Like the ego wants God, so it takes the lowest viewpoint. I won't have any opinions, so I can reach God. You're denying yourself. And what is it? If you deny yourself, you're not loving yourself, you are Satan. You are choosing God over you, the creation. So you love yourself completely and totally and utterly. But there's another person there who's just got the same valid needs and love and what are you going to do? That's the question. What are you going to do? Are you going to ignore yourself? Or are you going to impose yourself? You have to surrender, right? You have to become one. You can't intellectualize it. You can only fall in love. And in love, it's effortless. Is it not? It becomes effortful when that ego comes back. When your personal wants start to come back. I want. Is it not? There's quite a few things. Let's see if you've got anyone disagrees with this stuff, or anybody got any questions? Don't know if there's anyone out there in internet land. No, asking a question. Sylvia.
Hi, it's just something I think I get mixed up with. You're talking about like essentially all our ideas are wrong. And I can see that. And then what my habit is like, right, ideas are wrong. The it's almost like this, I can't trust myself, and this feeling that even the feelings are wrong, the concepts that I hold are wrong, and I can just go into a checkmate thing. So I can just checkmate like the whole of life, and then I end up not well. I think part of it is I end up denying the person, um, not knowing particularly what I want, and not doing anything, not following any thread. Um, yeah, yeah, just kind of that feeling of inertia because I can second guess everything as the ideas, the thoughts, the feelings. They're wrong. They're based in the person and the ego, and then yeah, the habit is just to do nothing, and then that also leads to yeah, that leads to unhappiness as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix up there.
The crux of it, get into it, the crux of it is engaging in a path and not knowing the outcome. Yeah, that's the crux. When there's absolutely no sense of what the outcome is, then nothing much happens in my experience. It just becomes too vague. And when you're too structured on a path, you get too concrete idea on what's going to happen. This is going to happen. If I practice like this will happen. And there's like a conceptual goal that gets too fixed, too fixated. It says there has to be a balance between them. One of the things on the path is say we have to hear the same things again and again and again, and because they go in deeper and deeper and deeper, and some elements of our minds are quite stubborn. So it's like your ideas are all wrong. Ultimately, if we analyze them, they will be not ultimate. They won't be the actual thing itself. You are neither young nor old. Ultimately. So the example I give is watching the same footage of Boris Becker. From one point of view, I remember him being old, and from another, he was young. So is he old or young? He's neither. But when I'm young, he is appearing old. That's a relative, momentary truth. To me, he appears old. And this is the amazingness of God, has law. So I'll relate to an older person, you'll either like see him as like a mentor or something special, or they come across as having wisdom, and there's a relationship to that appearance. When I'm older and the same footage is young, and then I have a different law and relationship to that. If I think that Boris Becker is old, you're an old man, that's ignorance. Like he is old. He actually is old. But as I'm looking at him, and he's appearing old, to his parents, he's appearing young. They're going to deny that no, it's wrong. Everything I'm thinking about my son's wrong. I know he's appearing young, but he's not. He's old. He's not. He's neither young nor old. So if you're a parent, it's very difficult if you're a parent. It's very difficult if you're a parent to see your child is awakened, because it's like they are younger than me and they are like that. It's very difficult. It's like they always appearing younger to your child. That's just your appearance. You're going to deny that? No, you're not. You're not my kid. Really, it's wrong. It's conceptions. It's ludicrous. So underneath, there's a underneath, there's a mechanism in you trying to figure it out, trying to get it right, and trying to get the right reward. These two things go together at the same time. One, you realize you know nothing. And two, you honor your experience totally as it's arising. The more you understand that what is appearing is not ultimate, the more you can embrace it, knowing it's fleeting. It's part of the death awareness. This is never going to come again. This is an aspect of God's wisdom appearing to me as forms and things for me to experience in order to know God. It's just not ultimate. It's just my experience. It's just my learning. That's another way of putting it. And to embrace that in complete trust that life is unfolding as it should, that's like Guru Yoga. That's with God. It's like I'm stopping judging, manipulating life to get outcomes. We've still got to make decisions within the relative space, but there's an underlying sense of I can't make God happen. I can only go with life as it is, appreciate it, appreciate all the experiences as they unfold. And the best way to experience those, to appreciate those experiences, that's what we call the path. That's the way of being in the world to get the most direct contact with the unknowable. But there's a point within us in which we can't get it intellectually. Let's come to the dark night of the soul. And we have to continue on the path with no hope for reward. And it's very even difficult to talk about, to pinpoint that mechanism in which we essentially give up. And we just are. We are with God without looking for rewards. This is a servant. It's like a servant is not going to become the king of the household. You just get your wage, and that's your daily bread. Here's your, and it's like you just get on with it. It doesn't. It's not for me to decide whether I awaken. So all the teachings are just mechanisms and ideas to, again, we'll hear it from one angle, to make us come to a state that's very difficult to talk about. It's not something you grasp with your mind. It's an intuitive, prayerful feeling of being completely alive in the world. Like in love with the creation and understanding the law of the creation. It's fleeting and passing, and it's got its sorrows and pains. And that ultimately, we like yearning for God. But God's revealing itself through the experiences as well. That's not something we can grasp with the mind. So each time we lean one way, we'll hear teaching for another to lean us the other way. So if you lean too far into meaningless inertia, everything I do is wrong, then it's like, no, everything you do is matters. Everything is real from one perspective. And we have to fall in love with everything that happens to us. And we notice when we go, like if we've got a partner and we get too attached, we're in pain. So it's like it's teaching, it's self-teaching. Once that's the thing of getting the path, the lamb, it's self-teaching. It's self-adjusting. Usually when people suffer, when they're not on the path, they blame the other person. But if we're suffering, we recognize, I've gone in too much. I'm too attached. I've got too personal. It's time to just kind of rest in the space. If you're like just rest in space and nothing's happening, you're just like distant from. It's like I'm too in the awareness. I need to like embrace the expression of my humanness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I really needed to hear that. That it made sense on a way that I can't like really use the mind to explain, but it made total sense. Yeah. Yeah, I can see there's like an intellectual decision that happens that shuts me down. And that decision is like a kind of almost like a greediness, like I want to get to God now. And so these things that I have desires for were actually God expressing. That doesn't look like God because they're not spiritual or they're kind of so then the intellectual goes, no, skip that, go to that, but it's the opposite. Yeah, I can't really explain it, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So it's like the expression of it is underneath is an inner joy. There's a yes to whatever's happening on top of the sorrow, underneath the sorrow.
Oh.
There's a yes. That's essentially it. I mean, that's Tantra in a nutshell. Yes. Yeah. It's like I'm going to the funeral and I'm going to grieve and cry and I'm going to see people there I don't want to see. I haven't spoken to them for a while. They're a bit uncomfortable. And underneath, yes. Underneath, you just know this is all for my awakening. This is all part of it. It's not for me to question. It's not like, but again, yeah, we can't, we're talking, but always remember it's not an intellectual thing. And then we come always to this thing where we ignore our own powers or we turn our own powers. It's like this balance. It's not like there's like some torturous method where you're going to sit and talk to someone you don't like. You're going to, right, you recognize also the fact that of not liking is part of God's will. And it's this main shift from we're totally immersed in the person, which says no to things, to a comprehensive understanding that of a force that's beyond our comprehension, and we say yes to everything, fundamentally. And then it's like tweaking between going into the no and into the yes. And when we're in the yes, then we can make decisions and we can have likes or dislikes. When we're in the no, we can't have likes or dislikes. They're a problem. Then we're pushing people away from the sense of a no to things. That we are trying to figure it out. And we have got an idea of where we should go. It's a feeling, it's a spirit. That's what the spiritual path is. It's not something you can just decide upon. This is like an energetic sense in your being of what is and isn't the spiritual path, what is and isn't enjoyment. Like this. Tamara, you got a question?
I was wondering about this really high idea of elevating pleasure and pain and being more interested in uncomfortable situations and whether it's advisable or if it's just food for the ego to seek them out. Basic, simple things like cold showers, for example, or painkillers for headaches. It's like little challenges to comfort. I woke up this morning feeling really like, God, I take my life for granted. I'm really just beat myself up for a little moment there, and the suffering of others, and what should you sort of not take pain? I say should. I don't really know what I mean by should, but yeah, toothache, headache, doing things that you don't want to do on one level, but on the other hand, you can see that if you can do Tonglen in that way, or I feel like my ego could take quite a lot of to stoke itself up quite heavily with those kinds of ideas, but but I also feel quite interested in pushing myself into less of an easy life. So it is completely easy. Sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting area for sure. It's an interesting area. So I say, like always, like fundamentally, in different times of our life, we'll do different things. So it's never like a fixed expression, a fixed rule. But within a time when we do it, then there's like laws and expressions of when we're, like if we're deciding to take on suffering, then it's got its own laws and expression. And if we're deciding just to relieve ourselves from suffering, it's got its own laws and expression and own truth. So, like as you sort of said, or definitely implied, if you're flowing with Tonglen, then do it. Take on some suffering. If you're taking it on and it's not a problem, and it's you're making your mind peaceful and you're more empathetic, then it's great. But in general, you don't choose, like as long as you're not, as long as you're deliberately making yourself suffer, it's not. If it comes to like a cold shower, then it's like it's healthy. It's like it's just a little bit of suffering, but it's healthy. It's like doing physical, like we're can be quite lazy with our body. Maybe have to do physical exercise. It's maybe not pleasant, but you do it because it's healthy. You know, it's good for me. I know it's good for me. I do it. When it comes to medicine, then it depends on your karma and your paradigm. If you understand that doctors are part of God and part of nature, and that they're like unveiling the better ways to help us and relieve suffering, then take medicine. Yeah, they didn't take them. Maybe they didn't take them back in the day because they didn't have them. And that the doctors are on a lineage of people who are bodhisattvas, people in the past who didn't have these medicines. They become doctors. Most of them were probably believers in God, trying to find different ways to relieve suffering. When they find it, imagine, I found a way to relieve your suffering. I'm not taking it. Why? Because I'm trying to find God. And it just deletes the whole point of having compassion. It's like, no, this is the effect of my compassion. Well, no one's allowed to take it. Why? It takes them away from God. It's like, there's no point in having compassion. And it's like, that's like, these are small points, and then there's an overall sense of whether we are taking on suffering or we're avoiding it. And if you're on the spiritual path, it's hard. Yeah, try doing the 5 prayers of Islam every day. It's not easy. It's not easy. And it's like anything else, you know, that's like enough of work on the self. For example, like having times for meditation, it's enough. You're working on the self. You don't have to beat yourself up about constantly like doing it. If you're doing that, it's over the top. You need to learn to relax, enjoy, and have that aspect of the path in which you're enjoying. But for example, it's so the wife's pregnant, and then it's like, she read something from Osho saying that if you take painkillers at the time when you're giving birth, you won't be a real mother, won't be born. And it's like, it's only true from a very relative point of view. And it's like, if you've got a pain avoidance mind, this is what he's pointing to. It's also speaking to one person. Yeah. In a particular time, in a particular moment. If you've got, and that person might have a pain avoidance sense. And if you, like someone is just like, and it's like at a certain time in the 70s, or in a certain time of culture when people are just drugging themselves up. And it's like, I don't need to bother about going through this. I'll just take drugs. So it can be very dangerous if you hear that, and you're someone who's taken on suffering, and then this massive suffering comes, and it's like, I'm not going to take painkillers because this person said, if I do that, I won't be a proper mother. Very important, if you followed what I just said, That mechanism of I want to be perfect is interfering with your intuition, interfering with what is right. I've got to get it right. I've got to do what they said. In a way, just you're conceiving it. Whereas Osho was talking to a really lazy person who never takes on suffering, and he's pushing them to not go into that lazy, I'll just leave it to the doctors, I don't have to care about it. And he's saying something to push them, and if you just take on the words without a teacher, you suffer. And what's suffering is your need for perfection. Whereas as soon as you conceive, you're a mother. That's all there is to it. Just go and fucking ask a mother who's lost a child, and my mum lost her child before me, fell down the stairs. It's like, to say that she wasn't a mother is absurd and insane. Yeah, she had a child inside her, just wasn't outside her yet. It's just like ridiculous. As soon as you conceive, you're a mother or you're a father. That's it. What if your child comes out and they're blind and deaf? It's not your child? You're not a father or a mother? You can't communicate to them in that way? Nonsense. It's such nonsense in my life. So it's like, if you're experiencing a lot of suffering, that's what medicine's for. To relieve it, so you can then go through the process. If you're just in this resentful, painful way, how's that going to, you might resent your child forever. And you hear knowledge that if your child gives you lots of pain, you'll resent them. So if you can take a painkiller, and you can experience complete love and joy as you're giving birth, then you're a mother, and then you can just go on forever looking at it from different angles. This is what we mean by there's no direct rule. You have to kind of sense your own intuitive sense of, am I lazy? And like I said to Baron the other day, no one's lazy. Everyone's on the path and practices regularly every day. Just stop beating yourself up about unnecessary levels of, am I doing it? Yeah, you are doing it. Yeah, relax. That's what I'm here for. You're doing it. And so if you're, like, can you imagine, you meet someone, they're like, oh, fuck, I'm not bothering with any of the doctor stuff. I'm just going to get my kid cut out of me. You'd maybe just tell them, look, unless you go through this, you won't really have a mother relationship. That moment of birth and going with it's really important, wouldn't you? If you got someone who's like thinking about it all day, can't wait to be a mother, they're working out how to use their body in the best way all the time, they're going through like cold showers, suffering, this to be a mother that's consciously going through a birth, and then they're about to give birth and in lots of pain. You can say, no, don't take a painkiller. You won't be a mother. Absolute nonsense in that context. So of course take painkiller. I don't know if that's answering your questions.
It did, very much so. Andrew, thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. Beautiful.
Baron?
I don't know what my question is, but I felt I had a question when you were talking about like being too attached or far away. I can't put into words. It just brought up a feeling that the feeling was a question, but there was no words with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, oh, maybe it's related to it's always like boundaries is the thing for me. And that yes to life and no to life, and the fundamental attitude of surrender, which you can't really conceptualize or think about, and it's weird. It's kind of like setting boundaries with people, which I find difficult, or like establishing healthy boundaries, mixed with traumatic stuff from the past, maybe from childhood, and these imprints, mixed with how you're feeling in the moment, to like the yes and the no. Because when there's like an inherent no inside, all the past traumas sort of like come alive in that and they play out. Whereas when there's like a yes in your heart, everything's kind of pacified a bit, and there's like different laws that come from that. So it's quite weird, and you can't understand it with your mind because there's the laws of like imprints of your childhood patterns, and then there's also the laws from when you're open in the moment, and they're weird. It's kind of strange because you can have this, and no two moments are the same. You can have like one moment with someone, and then another moment where you're grasping, and then it's totally different. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to get a handle on because sometimes you don't know where you stand with it.
And another way of saying it, when you're on the spiritual path, you're working on the ego.
Mm.
And so each time you see all these different things, so sometimes the mind's got the inner critic and it's going, oh, I slipped back. But if that's not true, it's actually an erosion of the ego. And each time the ego erodes, as you say, the same experience changes and you have a different expression of what's happening. So maybe you did not, like when we're starting on the path, you're kind to someone because you've heard, I should be kind. And that's true, and it's valid, and it's good to be kind. Then as you progress, you realize, oh, I was only doing that to get a reward from God, and it was the ego. So it's like, I'm not going to give. I'm not going to give in that way. So you don't just give the money. And then you realize there's another layer of ego that goes with that. And it's like, now I can give, and I'm aware of the both at the same time. And that can go on. And there's a deeper level. Each time the same action, there's a different expression of the ego. Or for example, you're just going with the flow. Like your partner comes in and says, can you make me tea? And it's like, yes. And then you're working on the fact that actually it's valid that I've got a feeling that wants to say no. And before I'd suppress that no. So I'll go, no, I'm not going to help. I'm just going to lie on the couch. And then you feel what that's like to express that sense of self and knowledge. And you realize, right, I'm still creating a sense of separation. I'm acknowledging my sense that needs a no. And I'm acknowledging the yes. And then we're starting to balance up when to say no and when to say yes. And this is what we mean by we make mistakes. Or another way said, you can never get it wrong. If you're on the path, it's different understandings of how the self is arising as you're perceiving yourself, perceiving your needs, and those needs change as your ego gets eroded, and all the habits we've built up through the false self and how it's energetically encountered people and how it's engaged. And sometimes the yes to life needs to come out as a no. That's us saying yes to life by going no.
That's scary.
Yeah. And this is why we need the trust, and we need to have that good, stable path of meditation, because then we know that we're always analyzing it. Not in the moment, but we're always coming back. We're always looking. It's not just a no, no, no. You know what I mean?
It comes out like that.
Yeah.
Feels like that sometimes.
Yeah. But even so, you're still analyzing it now.
Mm.
It's not, it's like, oh, it's okay to get it. We have to move with the negative, right?
It's like a no with a positive feeling inside and a lightness, rather than it being like a heavy no.
Even that's conceptualizing it, though.
Mm. Yeah.
All I can say is it's that commitment to God. There's an overall daily, like, I'm connection to God, remembrance, zikr, yes to it. And that might mean that we have a raging no at some point. Yeah, there might come a moment where we just sense we need to let all barriers go and scream and shout. Yeah, it's not something you necessarily do as a habit or think I can do that all the time. It might come like that. It might come like that, but only we can sense in ourselves whether, again, this is the dance, whether that's just an egoic thing. Again, the ego just wanted to get, or it was just an authentic expression of presence burping. And this is the path. This is that constant awareness of our journey and the trickiness of the ego, and like it's always going to be there to some degree. And
How do you know it's an ego thing? Did you just kind of have this little Gollum feeling inside after?
well, yeah, you've got to go through it. You have to experience it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there'll always be some sense of the ego, and then it's always revealing like a deeper level of what that deep yes is. And you'll see this, what boundaries are actually there. Like you're still motivated by a wish to get, and it's like, wow, you know. Yeah. So we can't analyze like that all the time, you know. So we need. That's what I mean. Then this dance, we know there's times when we need to just relax, forget about it, and in a sense, play, dance. A time to analyze again, a time to check on the ego, a time to push the ego, a time to just, I know I just need to just read a book.
Yeah, it gets quite heavy, that analysis, especially when it starts like, maybe my tendency is like when it starts getting heavy, I push more.
Ah.
And then it can get very like, just like, it can feel quite dark.
Well, you have to see what works for you. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to become your own guru. That's
Mm.
really, I mean, ultimately, this is your guru. This is the wise being inside you that just knows. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It just always knows. It's like it's fine. It's like it's good to have a little bit of negativity. It's like Osho said, you got a bit of salt to your being. You're not just you're not just like a goody goody, doing what's right all the time. I don't think anyone has to really worry about that here. I haven't really met anyone who's like a goody goody. I don't think I'd attract that kind of, maybe that kind of person. You just swear and you're right. But I mean, we've got an advantage being Scottish. So if you're Scottish, just watch football. I can get to see how stupid people are if they still watch it and hope for a different result. Anybody do that yesterday? Did you watch and hope for a different result? Yeah. It's like I had one thought. It was just like the football's on. It's like, no, I'm just back on. It's like, so I've progressed. It's always like still maybe after not watching football, still watched it international. It's like, and then my wee brother just sent me the stats. I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I've got some tiny little bit of wisdom developed that I didn't waste 90 minutes of my life needlessly suffering being Scottish. And yeah, I came to time to suffer. They practice loads. Just watch the football.
Go to every game, take on the suffering of Scotland. 5-1 though.
Well, so 79% possession to Germany. One shot on target. One shot off target. That was it. And still no wisdom to change the tactics or just have fun. Like, as if getting beat 15-1's any better than getting beat 5-1. It's like some kind of ego thing. Well, it's not so bad. We got beat 5-1. I think every person in Scotland, if they could vote, said if you could get beat 15-1 or 5-1, but you watch Scotland, just go for it and have fun. What would you choose? No, I'd rather just watch them defend in an imprisonment of absolute hopelessness. But I won't feel as bad if this says 15-1. You know what I mean? It's like a nice mirror. At least it keeps us humble. Right? Can't be too proud and be Scottish. It's like an impossibility. Even though people try, it's that double fool's pride. It's like it's a country that voted for subjugation. No, we choose to be slaves. That's our choice. It's like, yeah, the curse. I mean, how defeated. It's like we're we are, if you could personify us, we are, what's that film? We are Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django Unchained. Have you seen them? He's like the head of the slaves. But he loves his master. And got a little bit of power in the house the master gives him. That's like, I'm proud. I haven't won a war for like, I don't know, how many years? Hundreds, isn't it? Voted for overlords. We're not really good at anything, but it's like, Scotland! If you don't understand the delusion of pride and you're Scottish, you know, I don't know what to say. We don't have a problem. I don't come across too many Scottish people who have a pride problem on the genuinely. You just can't be proud and be Scottish. It's like an impossibility. Although, I mean, did we invent the stamp? We might have invented the stamp. So get some stamps up on your wall, put them on the shrine. Anyway, that's 102. Didn't manage to get to the vows, but we did. We won one more. Bannockburn. That's it. Get some kilts up on the shrine. Self-generators. Wee Prince Willie, whatever his name is, Charlie. Getting the national anthems out. So our pride is we're good at being miserable together. I think that's what we're, isn't it? Down the pub and talk about our misery and with humour. That's our superpower. Yeah, that's never one for national pride. Everyone's trying to escape. Go on holiday somewhere else, isn't it? As soon as like, what you got your free time? I'm going to another country. It's like, Scotland! Fly the flags there. It's like stupidity, pride. It's like, oh dear. So let's dedicate our virtue, our merit, our journey on the path that Scotland will win the Euros. No, I'm only joking. Not that. That all beings will be relieved of suffering, especially the Scottish supporters. That those without food will be given food. That those without shelter will be given shelter. Those that are lonely will find companions. Those that are depressed will find joy. Those that are depressed will find meaning and belonging. That everyone will have that deep sense that they're needed in life, that they belong, that life is glorious, that our consciousness itself is innately joyful, innately meaningful, and to just be is the greatest thing that could happen. And we just need to realize our own self. And from that space, we will naturally love and give and care for all things. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Amen. So thank you so much for your attention and practice, and hopefully I'll be able to get some work done this tomorrow. The wife's out the house. It's difficult to do anything when someone else is in the house. It's just for me. But we've got a little hutch space that I'm going to make into a little studio, so maybe I'll get some stuff done. So I hope you have a lovely day. And if you're going to watch the football, then may God have mercy on you. Okay.